Hello everyone, welcome to Back to Code. Today we will be learning about conditions, if-else statements and loops, and then about arrays, and lastly about functions in C#, for you to learn how to use C# and Unity combined. C# supports the usual logical conditions from mathematics. So here we have A is smaller than B, A is smaller or equal than B, A is bigger than B, A is bigger or equal than B, A is equal to B, and A is different to B. You can use these conditions to perform different actions for different decisions. C# has the if statement that executes a block of code. Whatever is between the curly braces will be executed if the condition that is inside the parentheses is true. So if, for example, if we have A that is equal to 2 and B that is equal to 3, and we say A is smaller than B, that will be true, so it will get in this code. If it had been A is bigger than B, then it won't execute this code. Don't forget to always put if in lowercase letters. Let's do an example now. So I have created a new script in Unity where I have a student 1 age and student 2 age. And let's create an if statement. If student 1 age is bigger than student 2 age, then this part of the code will be executed. So let's print student 1 is older than student 2. Now let's run it in Unity. I have attached here the script to our game manager, an empty object. And let's just put here an age for student 1, let's put 12, and let's put an age to student 2, let's put 10. There. And now let's run this script. And here it says student 1 is older than student 2. If I had put it the other way around, student 1 is smaller than student 2, then this, let's correct this, there we go, then this won't be run. Let's try it again, and nothing is printed. So this line of code was ignored. The same way, we could have used any of this. We could say, well, if they're equal, if they're different. So if they're different, run this code. If they're equal, run this code. If it's bigger or equal, you can do it. If it's smaller or equal, run it, and so on. If you want to execute a portion of code, if the condition is true, and you want to execute another portion of code if the condition is false, then you can use the if-else statement. Let's try it out. Here we have if student 1 age is older than student 2 age, print student 1 is older than student 2. Else, so we write else, print student 1 is younger than student 2. And let's try it out. I'm going to put the inspector here. And here we have student 1 age and student 2 age. So let's run this. Here we have student 1 is older than student 2, and that's true. Now let's stop it and put the age of student 1, that is 9. And let's run it again. And now it says student 1 is younger than student 2. So that's how you use if-else statements. Use a else-if statement to specify a new condition if the first condition is false. So here, if this condition is false, then it will test another condition. And if this condition is true, it will run this code. And if this condition is false, again, it will run this code. Let's try it out. Here again, we have the age, and we want to first ask, hey, what if they're the same age? Student age 1 equals student age 2, then print student 1 and student 2 are the same age. So now let's put student age 1, let's put 9, the other one let's put 9 too, and run it. And here it prints student 1 and student 2 are the same age. Let's start with loops. The while loop, that is this one, loops through a block of code as long as the condition is true. So let's try it out. Let's see what this means. Let's try it out. So here I have our student 1 age and student 2 age, and let's say while student 1 age is bigger than student 2 age, print student 1 is older than student 2, student 2 is student 2 age. And here we're going to be modifying student 2 age. So let's do student 2 age to be one more. So in C# you can write plus plus, and it's just the same as saying student 2 age equals student 2 plus 1. This second line of code, it's just the same as this first line of code. So let's just delete the second line of code. So what will happen here is if this condition is true, then it will get inside this code. We will add 1 to our student 2 age, and it will again compare this condition. If again student 2 is younger than student 1, it will run again this, and all again until student 2 is older than student 1. So let's try it out. I have here that student 2 is 5 and student 1 is 10, and let's just put play. And here it print. Student 1 is older than student 2 is 5. Then student 2 is 6, student 2 is 7, 8, 9, and when it reached 10, then student age 1 is equal to student 2, you see, and so it's not greater, and it got out of the loop. If you don't do this of adding 1 to the student age, then this while statement will be looping forever, and that will just break your code. So never do that. Always have something that will change the condition here inside your loop, or have something that will change this condition and make it false at some point of your code. When you know exactly how many times you want to loop through a block of code, use the for loop instead of a while loop. The syntax of the for loop is like this. You're going to have the for, then you're going to have a statement, a condition, and a statement again, and the block of code that you want to be executed while this condition is true. So what's going to happen is, in order, statement 1 will be executed. We're going to check the condition, we're going to execute the code, and we're going to execute statement 3. Then again, we're going to execute the condition and code the statement. Condition, code, statement, condition, code, statement, until this condition is false and it gets to the rest of the code. So here I have a simple script, and let's say we want to print all the grades students can have. So let's print these are the possible grade for a student. And let's do a for loop. So we said we're going to have the for and the first statement, the last statement, and the condition. So what we're going to say here is we're going to have here our int grade, and let's start it with 0. So we're going to declare a variable here called grade, and it's going to be 0. And then we say, okay, if grade is smaller or equal to 10, then go inside the for, and when you finish running this code, add 1 to your grade variable. So let's print grade. Let's try this out. And here it print. These are the possible grades for a student: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 10. So this is how you do a for loop. You're going to start with a variable, you're going to change it, and you're going to have a condition to stop the for loop. Arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable. Instead of declaring separate variables for each value, you can use one variable. So we can say like this: string students names, and declare all at the same time. We first put the data type, then the name of our array, and here we have to put always after our data type, we have to put the brackets. And then to initialize it, we have to put curly braces and just put each value separated by a comma. Now, instead of having all these lines, we can have in one single variable all the student names. Now let's print these names. How do we do this? So there's a way to access each one. You can say students names, and let's say we want to access Matt, the first one. To do that, we're going to put brackets and here put the position of where Matt is. In this case, arrays, we start by counting from 0. So this will be the position 0, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if we put 0 here, it will print Matt. So let's say position 0 from students' names. Now let's say position 1 from student names. It should print Mitch. Let's try it out. So here it says, okay, position 0, Matt, 1, Zach, and 6, Mitch. Something you can do to see it better in your project is just to add here our serialized field. You can see here all the student names. It says how long it is, and it says, okay, 0 Matt, 1 Zach, and so on. And you can even add here manually through your project, done. We can loop through these. Let's say we want to print all of them, but we don't want to do it this way. It's not a good way. So what you can do is use a for loop. Let's do a for loop. Here we say, okay, let's start from the 0 position of our array. Let's go until where? Until I is equal to, so here if we put students names dot length, this will give us the length of our array. Now let's try to print each student name. So we're going to do print students names on position I now. What's going to happen here? We're going to first initialize I in 0. We're going to say, okay, 0, is it smaller than the student name's length? Yes, it is. So we're going to print the name on position 0. That would be Matt. And after that, we're going to add 1 to I. So the I now would be 1, number 1. Is 1 smaller than the length of the array? Yes. So now it will print the one that is in the position number 1. That would be Zach. We will add 1 again, and it will be 2. It will check. It will print the one that is in the number 2 position. That will be Bob. So that's 0, 1, 2. So let's put play. So what did we print here? We had Matt, that is a 0, Zach, Bob, Rick, Greg, Nick, Mitch, and Don. Another way to loop through arrays is, so what's going to happen here? It's going to go through each value in our student array and save it in this student variable. So this var here is a generic variable. So you, instead of putting string, you can just put var, and it automatically detects that it is a string. Let's print student. Let's play. And what does it say here? Matt, Zach, Bob, and each one of them. So for each, what you do is you put the array, you put a name of a new variable you're going to create in the moment. You just put here in, and you will create a temporary variable called student that will be just one value of your array. A method or a function, it's just the same thing, is a block of code which only runs when it's called. You use methods to define the code once and use it as many times as you want. So it helps you shrink your code and not have the same lines of codes everywhere. So the syntax of your function will be this way. You're going to have a private or public here that it just tells who can access this function. You're going to have what type of data type it will return. When it's void, it means it won't return anything. Then you're going to have the name of your function that you can just set as whatever you want. You're going to have a parentheses and then the block of code you want to execute. Let's do an example. Let's declare our function. We're going to say that it's private. We're going to say that it won't return anything. And let's call it print hello. And we're going to say print hello. There we go. Now we have to call this function. In our update function that runs each frame of the game, we're going to check if the spacebar is pressed, then print hello. So how do we do that? If input dot get key down, here we go, get key down, key code, space. There we go. So that's just checks if the spacebar is pressed, then just call your function. How do you call it? You just write the name of your functions and your parentheses, and that's all. Let's try it out. So now if I press space, it says hello. If I press it again. And there you see, I'm pressing it many times and it prints hello. So that's how you call a function and how do you create a function. Now, information can be passed to these functions through parameters. These are parameters. Inside your parentheses, you can add parameters. So you're going to say what data type your parameters are going to be, and you can just separate them by a comma, and you will be able to pass information to your function. So let's try it out. Let's say I wanted to print hello and my name. So my name is Lucia, so I'm going to say string and name. And here I'm just going to say hello space plus name. And in the update function here, instead of calling it with print hello and nothing else here, we will put here a string and it's going to say Lucia. And now if I press space, hello Lucia, and I can press as many times and it will print hello Lucia. So right now what we're going to do is a function that doesn't return void, that returns something. To do this, let's say we want to calculate the average of student grades. So we're going to have our private, because we only want to access it in this script. We want to return the average calculated, so that would be a double because it's a decimal, and get average. We're going to need an array of grades, so that will be an array of decimals. So how do you calculate the average of anything? You sum them up and then you divide them by the length of the array, right? So we're going to need a variable that is a double that is going to be our average. And it's going to start in 0. And we're going to have to add to this average all the grades. So let's do for each. We're going to get each grade here. And we're going to say, okay, the average is going to be equal the average we had before plus the grade, the new grade we have here. Now, another way to write this same thing is just to put plus equals. So this is just the same as saying plus equals. And it's a cleaner way to write code. So we're going to leave it like that. Now we have all the grades added up. Now how do we divide it? Just the same way. Average divided equals grade dot length. And that would be our average. So now let's return it. Great. Now we're going to put here our print, our get average, and we're going to have to pass a new array. So let's do new there, a new array. That's how you create a new array, and we just put the values here. And let's try it out. Now if I press space, there it calculated 6.525 and the other one 5.73333. So you can use the same function for different values. That's great because you're reusing code. Well, that's all for today. Subscribe for more.